and you're watching Dog-Eared Musings, and today we're doing a review of the book Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a recent book that I've read that I absolutely loved, and I know that I'm super late to the party. This book was published, I believe, in 2014 and had a second resurgence. I probably should use a better word than that. When the panini struck, when people started reading it again, because it was a reflection of the unprecedented times that we were experiencing. This is a well-loved cover. I accidentally dog-eared it. And I started it late because I knew that I was gonna like it, and I'm wondering if I'm the only one that this happens to, where you kind of hype a book so up in your head that you're kind of too nervous to start it. Not because that you're worried that it's too overhyped, but just because you want to save it for the right time. And I'm really glad that I read it over the past couple weeks, because I think it really gave me some time to really savor the story completely. Emily St. John Mandel has written numerous novels since the publication of Station 11. She's written 2 other books. She's written various essays. And before she was a writer, she actually went to school to study dance professionally. So she is kind of ingrained into the school of classic arts, I guess one could say, which definitely reflects in the themes of this book, of Station 11 specifically. Now, the only con that I had for this story was, at certain times, the pacing cut off the character development for some characters. I believe that this was a kind of artistic choice that Mandel used to kind of demonstrate a realistic depiction of the various lives and experiences and how those stories are cut short during panini. But of course, like I always say, I wanted more, which I feel like is kind of a good problem to have with a book. Another con that I guess I could also say for this book, because St. John Mandel co-signed the show, was the show. Now, I know this is a hot take, and I'm sure that there are going to be people commenting in the comments of this video and maybe disliking the video for me saying this, but I really did not like the show. In fact, I had to stop watching the show because it took such a far departure from the book. And I'm not somebody who needs to watch a show and it has to be exactly word for word like the book. But I think what frustrated me the most about the show was that, for me, and again, this is my opinion, was that it felt like it wasn't adding anything new to the story. Like, it would have been really exciting if the story added something that was relevant, considering what our global community has gone through in the past 2 years. For me, I didn't feel like this new interpretation of Mandel's work really brought anything that those huge changes from this work needed to be made. So the pros. There were a bunch of characters that I really loved. Specifically, I really loved Madeline and Clark, and I loved their backstories. I also really loved St. John Mandel's use of storytelling and kind of how all of these stories intertwined, and the bouncing back and forth, how we were able to see who kind of makes it on the other side and how these stories kind of overlap. I also really liked being able to draw comparisons, and I know that this is why this book kind of had a resurgence in the past couple years, is people kind of drew parallels to our own society and our own community. And I think that that's something that is really exciting for readers when you read a speculative narrative, is like you can use it as a tool in thinking about how society either is the same or different from how the author envisions. And I really thought it was interesting how Mandel kind of thought that society was going to be forced to remove itself from technology. I mean, in her world, technology just is unable to function. And I think in the past couple of years, we've seen the opposite of that for both the benefits and the detriment. And I thought that being able to see those kind of parallels was really, really interesting. And finally, the thing that I really absolutely loved was the main message of art and it being used as a tool of survival and hope. I thought that the concept of a traveling symphony was insanely unique, and I also really loved how Mandel kind of used history and the idea of the plague and how theater was used as kind of a tool for uplifting everyday people's spirits and kind of used almost as a distraction and also as a tool for hope. I thought that the idea of this was a really exciting and a unique theme that I think we could all connect back to in the past couple of years of using movies or books as symbols of hope. Okay, so what are some read-alikes or book recommendations that kind of reminded me of Station 11? I thought we could go in either two different routes. The first one being Severance, written by Ling Ma. So this was another Panini first wave favorite book that a lot of people who were reading Station 11 were reading Severance, or a lot of people who were reading Severance were reading Station 11. This was another book that was written pre-Panini, where people kind of re-remembered them during that first time and were very startled about some of the similarities that Ling Ma kind of brings up. Now, this book is more of a satire than Saint Mandel, but we kind of go backwards in time and also are brought forwards in time. So that kind of has a similarity to Station 11 in that kind of jumping forwards and backwards. But where this kind of tone really is different is Ma kind of takes a stance on anti-capitalism and kind of the idea of work culture and also the idea of nostalgia and the kind of possibility of toxicity that living in the past and being stuck in the past might make a person. And this is one of my favorite books, but it's also one of those books where I'm really nervous to recommend it to people just because it is one of my favorite books. And another book that I feel like if you like Station 11, you might like is Hamnet, written by Maggie O'Farrell. And I did a reading vlog where I read this whole book. But I mean, this book has Shakespeare, although Shakespeare isn't named. But this is about Shakespeare's son named Hamnet. And it is about the plague, and it's about how kind of art is used as a tool to describe a family's grief and the beginning and end of a marriage. It is also a really amazing story about Shakespeare's wife. It's just another way of using storytelling as a symbol of hope and Shakespeare as a symbol of hope. And I think that this is another book that does that quite well. All right, so that was my review for the week. Again, I know that I was super late to the party, and I'm sure that this recommendation, I guess if this recommendation does anything, I hope that it just further encourages you to read this book if you haven't read it already. This has been Dog-Eared Musings. I'm Monika. Happy reading.